Most law enforcement officers are actually afraid to go hands-on. They're afraid to deal with people like you. It's not a game.
They're not afraid to deal with us.
Absolutely.
No,
a lot of people are.
Why? Afraid to us? We are an officer's dream.
Is there corruption? Yes. Is there self-serving people who want to promote? Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
But for you to say, no, well, that's not what you're saying.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
What am I saying?
Where's the BS button?
You guys violated your oath or you
We're
wouldn't
criminals.
be here. Right.
You can't. We were criminals. You can't compare us to the. If you compare us to the FBI, we're in a lot of trouble.
I'm not comparing.
Hi, I'm Michael Francis. I'm a former cop regime in the Colombo family in New York, one of the 5 New York mafia families. And today I'm surrounded by 20 cops. All right, my first surrounded claim is undercover sting operations often manufacture crime.
I'm far away.
How do you
Nice
do?
to meet you. So, you believe that undercover operations create crime?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the word entrapment. So, entrapment means that law enforcement officers are inducing a reasonable person who is not predisposed to a crime to commit a crime.
Well, what do you mean a reasonable person? No, in my experience, the undercover operations were either an undercover law enforcement person or somebody, a confidential informant that was put into that situation. That's not a fine, upstanding person, normally. The undercover agent, absolutely.
Okay.
But not that other person.
So I've worked undercover. I've worked undercover in multiple situations.
You're a fine, upstanding person.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And looking at it from that perspective, if I was doing a prostitution sting, walking the streets, then people weren't predisposed to committing crime, they could keep driving or keep walking right by me.
Correct.
So the fact that I and my law enforcement agency created an arena for someone to make a decision does not mean that I manufactured crime for them. I did not force them to commit crime. They made that final decision.
I agree with that, and I believe that undercover sting operations are necessary.
Okay.
You know, to catch people that you suspect of being criminals. However, there are situations that I'm very familiar with where they will use another criminal, okay, to go into that, become a confidential informant, and he will help to manufacture a crime by getting people to say things that they wouldn't have ordinarily said, put them in a situation, bring them a criminal activity of some point and put them into it. So yeah, because they don't know what this other person is doing. I give you an example. Michael Francis, we know he's an organized crime guy. We got our informants told us that, but we haven't been able to catch him in a crime. So let's send somebody in there and see if they can create something to put him involved in. And then we have our crime. That's done.
It is,
Yeah.
but sending someone in like a confidential informant, there's also a lot of controls that are on the law enforcement side.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that person is wired or there's an infiltration of a law enforcement officer on, as part of the act, they're still not causing crime to be manufactured. It's all being done rightfully by the suspect.
I can't agree with that. I cannot. When you wire up a confidential informant and that informant brings criminal activity to that other person because that's the person that's the subject of the sting operation, that's entrapment as far as I'm concerned, because that wouldn't have happened if your confidential informant didn't go in and manufacture that crime. They're bringing him the crime. He's part of that criminal activity.
Understood.
And
but if you didn't want to commit that crime, you wouldn't have to. You could walk away. You could be like, you know what? I don't want to do this robbery
That's
tonight.
true.
I don't want to put a, amount of money on someone's head. I can just walk away.
Absolutely, and if you do, you're not entrapped. But if you do it, then you are entrapped. And that's what the confidential informant is supposed to do, entrap you.
I understand what you're saying, but you just made my argument. So if you could walk away from that, and if you walk away from that, it's not entrapment. You're not getting involved in the criminal activity,
That's
where
correct.
if you stay involved in it, you were predisposed to move forward with that crime regardless. So it's not entrapment either.
Well, I disagree with that. I think it would have never happened if law enforcement didn't put their CI in there to try to entrap that guy, then there would have been no crime.
But if the person they were trying to entrap, let's say it's you, if you were going in with a clean conscience, not wanting to commit crime at all, then it wouldn't matter who they put in there.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you're still creating the crime. Law enforcement is creating the crime through their confidential informant. Because it would have never happened if that confidential informant, if he never met him, then there would be no crime.
So the confidential informant comes in saying, I want to do XYZ crime, you can still walk away.
You can, and then there's no entrapment. But there wouldn't have been anything at all if your guy didn't come in. He wouldn't have had to refuse anything because there wouldn't have been anything to refuse.
So you're saying you would never have committed a crime no matter what it was if there wasn't a confidential informant that came in?
I'm not saying, no, but here's what I'm saying. Then get him for that crime. Then the government didn't push that. The government didn't create it. The government didn't manufacture it. He did it on his own. You have every right to get him at that point.
The government provided an opportunity, and the person can decide whether or not to take that opportunity.
That's correct. That's correct. But let me ask you a question. Here's somebody here, he's broke. He's got no money. No money at all. Never committed a crime in his life. Innocent guy. Okay, can't put food on his table. You don't like that guy. You know what? I don't like him. I don't know what to do. He's not a criminal, but I'm going to send somebody in there and give him some incentive. I'm going to send somebody in there to talk to this guy to tell him, listen, I have this jewelry store that we can rob. Don't worry about it. Inside job. Nobody's going to know anything. Okay, but come with me. We'll do it. Now you can put food on the table. So you created a crime. You manufactured a crime for a guy that never was in trouble in his life.
He may never have been in trouble in his life, but if he wasn't already thinking that he could get away with that crime or commit that crime, he would say no.
You can't lock somebody up for what they think. I may think of committing, I may want to rob Brink's truck, but I'm not going to do it.
Of course.
So you can't get mad at me for what I'm thinking.
But if he doesn't move forward with robbing that jewelry store, then there's no crime.
You're not understanding. You didn't understand what I said. You didn't like that guy. He wasn't a criminal. You just didn't like him.
Yeah.
But I can't do anything about it. But I'm law enforcement. I have a tool. I have a weapon. I have a CI. I'm going to send him in there. I'm going to bait this guy into committing a crime.
I love that you think there's enough time and staff to be able to screw people over.
In the world of organized crime, okay, they got all the money, all the resources. Let me tell you something. During my time in organized crime, we had 750 made guys that comprised all 5 families. We had 1,400 agents, 2 agents to every 1 guy. They had plenty of time. That's what they get paid for. They have plenty of time, and they put a lot of effort into it, and they put a lot of guys. They destroyed my former life. They have all the time in the world when they want to. I'm not saying you do or anybody else in this room. I'm telling you my experience. And let me tell you something. I had a lot more respect at that time for police. They were doing their job. I understand that. People say to me, Michael, now, you got to hate the police. I said, no, I don't hate the police. I have a wife. I have 5 daughters. I have grandkids. When they walk down the street, I want the police to protect them. I support the police, but I don't support the underhanded stuff that was done and that continues to be done. I'm sorry. I think the defund the police movement is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm totally against that. But I'm totally against law enforcement using tactics and weapons to get people that they shouldn't be doing. They have to play by the rules, period, or we have anarchy.
You're right. And they do play by the rules.
No, they don't.
Because providing a criminal opportunity does not force someone to commit a crime. And if that person is getting lured into the crime because they don't have enough mental fortitude to say no to something, that's not law enforcement's fault.
You can't lock somebody up for their mentality.
But if they move forward,
they have to commit the crime.
If the confidential informant gets them to move forward and commit the crime.
Well, did they manufacture that crime then? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
There was no crime until law enforcement put the guy there to make the crime.
And the person they wanted to arrest could have said no.
I understand, but there would have been nothing to say no to if the government didn't put that crime in front of them. So they manufactured it. There was no crime before that.
Okay, pause. It's been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
You are fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What took you guys so long?
Adam.
Got it. How are you?
Nice to meet you. We're both New York guys. We're adults, right? We make our own decisions.
Correct.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 99.999% of undercover stings aren't just us being like, John Doe, you want a sawed-off shotgun? You know what I'm saying? Like, It's not how it is.
I agree.
We already probably have dirt on you in some facet, right?
Oh, you think you do? Yeah.
Either way, sure, fair. All right, fair, fine. So we're going to set up a 20-man team, audio, video, all this stuff just for a random dude?
No.
Right. That's my point.
No, but what's the difference? Let's put out a name that everybody knows. Let's say it's John Gotti. We
Sure.
know that John Gotti is the boss of the Gambino family. We'd love to see him in jail.
Okay.
But we don't know what he's doing at this point. So we have to figure it out. So let's get
Sure.
a confidential informant, okay, wire him up or do whatever it is that you do, and put him with John Gotti and try to bait John Gotti into doing something, whatever it might be, so that we can get something on him. Tell me you're not manufacturing that. No,
He's still in the
tell
crime
me-
family. He's still running the mob. Like, it doesn't matter.
Being in the crime family
So
is not a crime.
So, sure. Yes, I
correct?
understand that. No, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah, but
so-
if you still put a CI in the room with him, he's like, "Hey, boss, you want to commit murder today?" He's gonna be like, "Actually, no, we're gonna pass on that." Like,
Okay.
no, he's still gonna do the crimes he's doing. Now we just have an inside
But-
guy
but you
to
don't- but
wire
you-
that up.
But you don't know that. You don't know
That's
that.
the point of the undercover sting. It's part of it.
Exactly, but you're manufacturing that particular crime. You are
He
creating
could say
that
if he's
crime.
some
Doesn't
no
matter.
one's gonna tell the boss of the Gotti crime the crime family to say what he's gonna do.
You're not understanding. There still was no crime. You're creating a particular crime by bringing that confidential informant into him and giving him a situation, a criminal situation that you're hoping he bites into. If there was no confidential informant, there's no crime. So you manufactured that
He's
situation.
not making him do anything. he can easily be like, "We're not doing that today."
He can.
Right.
He can say no, but I'm going to say the same thing that I said to that young lady. He wouldn't have to say no if you didn't manufacture something for him to say no
He also
to.
doesn't have to say yes. This is a
But
circle.
it doesn't matter. No, because
For sure.
the question is, do confidential informants manufacture crimes? The answer is yes. You're just agreeing with me because yes, he's bringing a criminal situation to John Gotti that didn't exist before. If another criminal came to me and said, "Michael, let's do this crime together," and I did it, okay, I did it. But if
Yeah.
the government sent that guy in there, then the government is manufacturing
No, because
that
you
crime.
still have free will, and you could be like, "No."
But
It doesn't matter.
You're right, but there would be
Right.
no crime if the government didn't make that happen.
But you're
bringing
still
that crime to bear.
saying yes, and again, we would already have something on you, or think we have something on you.
Think
You're not
that
sure. No, for sure. You're not a
think you
random
have
person.
something
That's
on
my
you.
point.
Doesn't matter if you're random or not. Everybody has the same rights.
Yeah.
If you're alleged to be a criminal, but you didn't commit a crime, you still have rights as an American citizen.
For sure.
So it doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter, or what you suppose, doesn't matter. You could say, yeah, John Gotti's doing a million different things. We don't know what they are, but let's get somebody to do something so that we do know what it is.